Is your home security camera spying on you and sharing information with other people? Lots of big data breaches happening this week. Uh, Biggest credit card breach of all time, at least at the moment. Video conferencing software that can easily be eavesdropped on. All of this on This Week in Cybersecurity with the Code Curmudgeon. Okay, we have a bunch of different things to go through this week, so let's start with the Amazon's Ring camera issue. There's been a lot of articles about it going on this week, partially because the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, did some research and found out that Ring is sharing data with third parties, and in theory, if you dig deep inside of the Ring user docs, license agreements, etc., you might figure it out that they're doing this. But they claim that they've essentially anonymized it, right? That they've minimized it and that you can't reverse engineer it. But EFF's research shows that you actually can. So it can tell who you are and what you've done. In particular, like the Android app. So if you're using your Ring camera through your Android phone, then lots and lots of info about you is available. So what do we learn from this? A couple things. One, companies need to be way more, let's just say, ethical about what they're doing with user data, more open, transparent about it. But also, yet again, home security cameras that are internet enabled are turning out to be a way to lose security. So be really careful about which ones you're deploying at home, and make sure that you keep them patched, up to date, no default passwords, and where possible, go into them and turn off any sort of data sharing that there is. All right, so that's the Ring camera, right? The other half of that story was that a bunch of the Ring engineers actually put out an article as well saying that the whole Ring camera division should just be shut down immediately. They should just undo it all. The bunch of Amazon people are really unhappy with how the whole Ring thing is played out. So for whatever that's worth. Just a quickie here, Cisco Firewall needs a patch. There's a bug in a Cisco Firewall device, and you need to bring it up to date, or it can be exploited in a pretty nasty way. Didn't want to harp too deep on this one, just one of those constant reminders like IP cameras that the devices that run the internet itself are vulnerable and have problems, and in fact, it's a pretty constant thing. So make sure your IT department is keeping up to date on all that stuff. LabCorp, healthcare data breach. This is always a bummer, right? Because, it's bad enough people have my name, my phone number, my email. It gets worse if they have my social security and credit card number. But they've got my medical data. I don't know, somehow that creeps me out. It's probably less useful or at least less damaging to me personally, but it bugs me. I don't like it. So LabCorp had a bunch of data. Let's see what it says here. 7.7 million patient records. So, no, that was their previous breach. There we go. This was thousands of medical documents left online, unsecured. Like the breach we talked about last week, this was one of those cases not where somebody burgled the data, but that it was just left out in the open and someone found it. I thought this was interesting partly because of the constant recent breaches around patient healthcare data, but also that LabCorp, this is their third time in 3 years to have some kind of a nasty breach. So, learn something from this, people, right? I get it. The first breach happens. You didn't realize you were vulnerable. Do a real review. Don't just go, hey, where was the exact hole that people came in? Look at your posture. Why is it that they were able to come in? Are we storing data in an unencrypted way? Do we have proper controls against the data? Do we have proper monitoring against the data? This is just crazy that this happens. And the unsurprising but annoying thing is that it's the same companies over and over again. Obviously, the companies that do a good job aren't getting hacked, and the ones that are doing a bad job aren't getting any better at it. So, LabCorp. Web conferencing, Zoom. This is not Zoom's first round in the Code Curmudgeon's perspective. Last year, they had an issue with how they were triggering their app, especially, I think it was just Macs. It might have been Windows, but I think it was just Macs. But when you clicked a link, it would go to a web page, and the web page would trigger a locally installed client to join a Zoom conference. And they were doing it in a pretty insecure way, and it turns out they were opening a giant security loophole on your machine. So they fixed that. But now they have this problem that when you generate a Zoom meeting, there's all kinds of options around it. Like, is it your private link? Is it a general link? Is it your phone number based link? Is it your username based link? Is it a one-time meeting, so it's a randomized link? And then can they call in? Do they have to put in a password? Sorry about that. There's a bunch of sirens. Like, it's probably going to affect us really bad now. We'll just wait. Like, is that good content? Can you see the sirens? Like, there they go. They're literally like circling all the way around me on all sides on the park to make sure I get maximum benefit. Awesome. All right. So when you create these meetings at Zoom, you have all these different options, right? And one of them is, do I require a password? And people usually just say, hey, well, I'm giving people the link and it's one time and people won't be able to guess it, and we'll see when people log in, so it's no big deal. So what I have found is that people really aren't using that password option very often. It's extremely rare that I encounter it. And some researchers figured out that if you poke away at these things, if you have like a URL generator, you can try to generate room IDs and join in. And they found, I think it was, 4% of the time they were able to like get into Zoom meetings, real Zoom meetings. So again, the reason I point this out, first, if you're using Zoom, like either use passwords or use specific identifiers, or, be aware if you're doing small meetings, just keep track of who's logging in the meeting. But in the case of Zoom here, I wanted to point this one out. It's interesting because this isn't like a software flaw per se. It's not that there's a bug in the code that allows this. This is like insecure thinking, right? Or not secure thinking, or unsafe thinking. They don't have proper security requirements where they say, okay, well, let's think about what could happen. Can people get into a meeting? Do our customers want random people to be able to attach to their meeting? And if the answer is yes, then this is fine behavior and it's a feature. If the answer is, well, gosh, people really don't want random strangers logging into their meeting, then this is a bug. So it's that what we're seeing with these last two issues with Zoom is they really haven't put in as much time and thought around their security posture, thinking about what are the threats, how can they happen, how often will they happen, what is the impact of the threats, and what can we do about it. And, they're selling like a very highly used piece of software to lots of people doing real business over it. And I would be more comfortable if they had a much better perspective on security. So, little disappointed in you, Zoom. Little disappointed. Free antivirus software. Avast makes free antivirus software. I don't use it. You shouldn't either. There's a blog post on CodeCurmudgeon.com about getting your Wi-Fi from Elvis. Go read it. I'll put a link down below if I remember. Hopefully I'll remember. Free stuff just isn't like usually free. In America, free stuff means advertising supported. That's what it means. I don't know about the rest of the world. Lots of different models. In America, the free model usually means ad-supported model. And what's happening is Avast is harvesting users' histories and data and selling it to third parties. Again, like it's been de-identified is the word they used. Anonymized is another word. No, it's not. You can reverse engineer it to people's real identities. So, they've claimed now, I think I saw something this morning that now they're saying that they've cut off this third party, but this is like a bad business decision. This isn't, again, not like a flaw, it's a mistake, they're only human. This is their business model, right? We're going to give you antivirus software for free, and the price you pay is that we're going to harvest data about you and sell it to people. So they can cut off this company. Are they cutting off the practice entirely? Are they switching out of the free model? Have they promised they're going to do security reviews and never, ever reveal any of your data to anybody again? I suspect that they've cut this company off, and they'll claim that they're going to do a better job at de-identifying user data. When you're using free stuff, figure out what is the cost, what is the business model, how do they make money? I'm sorry, it's just a real thing. Like, you are the product typically in modern internet world. When something's free, you are the product, and they're selling your data and not paying you for it. So, something to think about. Biggest credit card breach of all time. I hate to say of all time. To date. I should say to date. They always get bigger. Wawa. Okay, so I live in the West Coast. We don't have Wawa. East Coast, they got Wawa. Lots of places they have Wawa. Apparently, somebody called Joker's Stash claims that they've got 30 million credit cards, or the data from 30 million credit cards from Wawa. So basically, they had put some malware inside a Wawa system that operated for months. Again, hey, Wawa, like, first of all, encrypt your users' data. Don't store it unencrypted. Second of all, like, monitor what's going on. How does somebody get into the system and run a piece of malware for months? Like, that's just bad behavior. I'm sorry. It shocks me and disgusts me. I guess it shouldn't shock me because it happens all the time, but so annoying. So if you are a Wawa customer and you've used your credit card at Wawa, you can wait for a notification that in theory you're going to get. In practice, like, figure out what cards you use there and just change their numbers. Just do it. Avoid the problem. Be ahead of the curve. That's all I can tell you. So far, only some of the cards have been released, but they have more, and that's the point, right? Like, as they release them, then Wawa will go, okay, well, these people have been breached, and they'll notify you. Again, if I was someone who had used my card at Wawa during, late last year or any time last year, I would just go and have that card replaced. Just tell the bank, tell them why. Tell them it was the Wawa breach. They'll understand. They'll get you a new card. One other, just a super quickie. Didn't mention it in the opening. I almost wasn't going to mention it because there's already too many items today, but the UN got hacked, okay? And it's not even an interesting hack. I mean, it's human rights data about human rights activists, so it's kind of a bummer. But it was a SharePoint vulnerability, and that's all I really wanted to point out. Like, keep your stuff patched, people. There is just a big old list that you can find. I'll put the link below of CVE vulnerabilities. So, keep stuff patched, keep up to date. Like, have a system in place for the software that you've deployed that notifies you of when fixes are available, and make sure you deploy them. So that's about it. Thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, you get notifications. If you've got specific questions, let me know. If you're hearing about something interesting to add to This Week in Cybersecurity, love to hear about it. Stay safe out there.